was asked very quickly yesterday, and I was in Scotland, so I arrived this morning to put together a talk for this in place of Kevin. A couple of months ago, actually 1 month ago, I was at the Future of Cybersecurity in Manchester, and I presented about how we built the information security function at Scoutbee. And I thought I would focus a little bit on how we commercialize things. So basically the title of my talk is Shifting from Risk to Business, and some thoughts on why business rather than risk might be a better driver for security. A little bit about me. My name is Greg Gaast. There was a thing with the nuclear weapons facility when I was about 16 years old. That was my long eroded claim to fame. I've been in cybersecurity for about 25 years. In technical roles, management, now leadership, obviously at the C-level. I'm known to be a fairly strong critic of the InfoSec status quo. I don't necessarily agree with how we approach things, the skill sets that we require of people, and the far from upstream focus of where we address things rather than addressing root causes. I've written a book that talks about this a fair bit called Rethinking InfoSec that most people seem to like, and I'm currently CISO at Scoutbee. I'll give you a little bit of context on Scoutbee because it shapes my thinking, because I do think that we should adjust our thinking for every organization that we go into, every situation that we deal with. Scoutbee is a SaaS-ish, I say, because we do a lot of customization per customer. Provider specializing in supplier discovery, scouting, and management. So for example, if you are a manufacturer and one of your suppliers suddenly just got hit by sanctions because their country may be bullied some people, and you need to rapidly find new supply chains, we're there to help you. We use a lot of automation to basically cut supplier discovery down from, say, 6 months to 1 month. We help large manufacturing companies basically find the things that they need to build their products. Our customers are typically very, very large, fast-moving consumer goods, automotive, manufacturing. And as a result of that, we deal with some interesting data. We don't actually have much PII because we are business to business, but we do deal with a lot of intellectual property. So a lot of these very large companies will send us their designs, their formulations, so that we can find the suppliers that can deliver them for them. And we also deal with a lot of supply chain information, which is quite interesting because a lot of it is technically public information, but it's the kind of sequence and who does what for you that's quite sensitive. Anyway, I just want to jump into the main theme of my business. The audio on your end is very crackly, but hopefully you hear me fine. So the traditional perspective, and I think we all recognize this, to me, is security gets in the way, slows things down. This is why businesses don't like security. Another one is that security costs money. It impacts the bottom line. A lot of people don't like security people because we are those preachy techies. And I wonder how much of this is us creating FUD, basically. I actually recently had someone on my team who went on a date, and her date told her she couldn't stand the IT people at their workplace. The only people worse were the cyber people. And then there is risk schmisk, who cares? Because it's quite intangible to the business. It's hard to justify. It's hard to show that we're actually doing anything to improve it or minimize it and quantify how much that actually gives back to the business. Sure, we have lots of models and this and that to do that, but are they actually accurate? It's quite easy when we can't prove it. So why is that? Why is that businesses really struggle with security, struggle with supporting security, struggle with recognizing security? And I ask myself that from my position, which is that of CISO. And to me, the important thing there is a C. And at chief level, we're not heads of InfoSec. We operate with the success of the overall business in mind. It's not just about doing security. It's about taking care of, yes, all things relating to information security, but also so much more. Anything and everything we can do for the health of the organization, we need to be doing. And when I say all things related to information security, I don't just mean the typical things that we think about. which is assurance against cyber risk. And even there, I question how well we're actually doing this, because the spending is through the roof and accelerating. The only thing accelerating faster is the size and scale and frequency of breaches. And the other big thing that we're known for is compliance, industry compliance, but for assurance reasons or for just pure sales reasons, because it's a business requirement. But are we actually doing compliance with real security and insurance in mind? Because I've yet to come across an organization that was ISO certified that I couldn't dismantle in a few hours' time, asking a few questions. But what about other elements of security? What about security marketing or branding, or creating a value proposition that elevates our business, our company above others in the space? What about cost and revenue effectiveness? Think of, I'll never forget seeing this resume from the CISO, and the very first thing it said in qualifications was ability to increase security spending. To me, as a business owner, that doesn't sound like a good thing. I don't want to spend more money. I want to spend less money. And I really hope you guys are hearing me, because all I hear is tremendous crackling from the other side. To me, it's all about treating the business as my own. So I want to minimize the costs that I'm incurring on the business, but I also want it to help produce revenue. I want to actually help the business increase its top line through security. How do I do that? Yeah, to sum it up, it's all about altruism, about thinking how we can give back to the business, about maintaining relationships, that organizational health, getting people to work better together, getting traction earlier in the chain, and not this obsession with this really expensive security tech, which you hear many vendors who can track their licenses. Like I've heard vendors tell me that 85% of the security agents that they provision, that they've sold, have never been actually installed and turned on. Like there's a tremendous amount of spend on security tooling without much thought about how will this actually work and benefit the organization. So what I like to do, first thing, is shift security to a quality function. And I've done this analogy to death, but I'm going to do it again. It's the car factory. So you imagine you're standing in the street, in front of you is a car factory, building on one side, parking lot on the other. Cars go through the assembly line, maybe 100 different stations, and eventually end up in the parking lot. However, they're being pushed from the third floor. So every car, every 30 seconds, goes into the parking lot, ends up smashed and mangled. And people have to take that car, park it somewhere, build a workshop around it, determine what's broken, what parts do we need, what's the order in which we need to disassemble and then reassemble this, which tools do we need to do that? We have multiple defects. What's the minimum standard we're working to? How do we best prioritize these things? Who's going to QA this when we're done? How do we hire the people to do all this work? And then we're going to get some auditors and some consultants in to tell us how to do stuff, and some vendors to sell us better tools. And every 30 seconds is another one of these cars crashing that needs this performed on it. And it creates this ecosystem in the parking lot, which is great for security company business. And it employs tens of thousands of people. But at the end of the day, would it not be better if we stopped throwing cars off the third floor? And the reality of the analogy is actually the cars aren't being lobbed from the third floor, but random defects are being created in these systems, in these environments, in these applications that we build every step of the way. And security, not having that traction and that incorporation into the business, tends to act at the very end. But what if instead we had the traction, instead of all the security spending and headcount, we had the traction to incorporate in the business and fix those defects before they arrived? And the beauty thing is we become a quality function. We make sure things are built properly. But for every defect that we find that's a security issue, we'll find 10 other defects that may have been a functionality issue or a performance issue. By building things right, we create less attack surface, fewer things go wrong, but we also improve the perceptible quality, not just the security, number of security risks and issues associated with it. Now you start building entire infrastructures like this. You start building your operations like this. You start having that traction, that collaboration between teams, and you start developing tremendous agility and visibility benefits, which also means you can start building things that have with maintainability in mind. You have lower costs to actually maintain and run these things. And so you're creating tremendous business value here, both in cost efficiencies and quality, and you're eliminating the very existence of the security issues or the attack surface that you'd normally spend a whole bunch of money endlessly remediating. So this has much more business value. And these are conversations that to business executives who do not understand security the way we've been pitching it, make a lot more sense. It also primes commercial opportunities, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So for me, adding the commercial value is the more I do stuff upstream, the more I do stuff with a quality focus rather than a remediation focus, that decreases spending. Not only does it decrease spending, but it allows me to get more of the spending that I have, because I'm shifting the security where it applies itself further upstream. So I'm driving value, I'm driving improvements that affect other departments. So I can make the user experience easier, I can make maintainability easier, I can make it cheaper to maintain infrastructure because I've designed it that way. Even from a sales standpoint, something we did at Scoutbee, we used to get these massive customers and it took us three weeks to process the requests. Well, instead of just doing like security stuff in the SOC, let's compile everything we do. Let's standardize how we operate. Let's standardize how we build. And it's gone from taking us 3 weeks to answer a security questionnaire to taking a day, because we standardize everything. We know, we have the knowledge. And even though it's just a security questionnaire, it doesn't stall the sales process for 3 weeks anymore. And that gives, not only shortens the sales cycle, but actually gives customers a sense of confidence. So that's just one other example of how security can help, just even if it's just keeping the sales momentum going by being a little bit quicker to respond to the business's needs. We have things like we've researched most of our market sectors. We have a security appendix. We got a questionnaire. We'll actually tell them about, this is research we've done in your sector. These are the risks we believe you face. And that's why we've addressed this, and that's why we do certain things this way. And customers find that very interesting. We'll get tender proposals, and they won't mention security because security is always an afterthought, but we'll bring it up. It's like, have you considered all these issues? And that's why we address this. We're concerned about your data in this way. And they will then go back in a tender situation and go back to our competitors and ask, do you guys do this? We hadn't thought about this, but we'd like to ask you the same questions. And quite often they don't. And that then becomes a competitive differentiator for us. So these are ways in which security can actually help the business. And this is why security is having conversations with COO, CEO, Chief Commercial Officer, sales, marketing. And that gets us a lot more presence and a lot more traction to actually do things, even the traditional security stuff. And the analogy I've been using to illustrate this is, imagine you have a beautiful little classic car that you love I'm obviously a car fanatic, and hence all the car analogies. But you have this beautiful little, let's say Alfa Romeo Spider, little classic car. It's the love of your life. Every now and then you have to take it in for a service, and you take it to a garage and you drop it off and they take it in the back. You don't see it. And at the end of the day, you get a bill saying all the things that they did to it. Then you just assume that they have, you pay the bill and you leave. And you have about the same level of assurance that those things actually happened as with most security questionnaires, which is actually very little. And one day the garage is busy. So you end up going to another garage. And there it's a little bit different. Everything seems a bit more structured, a bit more organized. And you walk into reception, and behind reception, there's a glass partition, and you can actually see them wheel your car in, put it in the bay, open up the bonnet, put protective blankets so it doesn't get scratched. And you see them pouring the fluids, and you see them checking things. And if you have questions, you're invited to walk in, and you can look directly at the work they're doing while they're doing it, because they have confidence in what they're doing and they're doing it properly. You can tell that they care about the thing that you care about. So my question to you is, next time you're getting your car serviced, which garage are you taking it to? You're going to take it to the second one, and you're going to take it there even if it's 10 or 20% more expensive, because you know they care and you associate a value to that. And it's funny because security psychologically is very, very powerful. If you look at travel patterns after 9/11, security matters to people. It could be physical or otherwise, but psychologically, it's quite a strong factor, which I don't think we've been exploiting at all. We've been using it from a FUD standpoint, but we've not been making it really business relevant to the actual stakeholders. So I think that's a really good way of looking at how we can actually create commercial value from security. And how does that affect teams and org structures? I think this is a really, really interesting one, because I love dealing with people. Being more business focused as opposed to tech focused as a security function has a genuine impact on the reporting line. If you are a commercially minded individual, commercially minded C-level individual in an organization, you do not go and report to a CIO. That would make no sense, because you're unable to deliver your maximum value there. For example, I report to the co-CEO because it wouldn't make sense for me to report down to IT. I'm trying to deal with business issues, commercial issues. So it changes the dynamics of where people should report. The other thing is the skill sets and the hiring pool is dramatically affected if we change the approach to be more business and more proactive and more process driven in terms of addressing business processes, not just IT issues. And the analogy back to the car factory where everyone's working in this parking lot that I always give is I can hire a 10-year veteran CISSP for £80,000 a year, and he's going to run into that parking lot and start changing radiators and body panels like an absolute champion on day one. Or I can hire a 40-year-old transitioning serviceman or a 21-year-old college student, and the first question they're going to ask me, feeling a bit stupid, is, why are we lobbing cars from the third floor? Because they think they're ignorant and they don't understand why we're doing that, when really they just haven't been indoctrinated into that security industry. So that to me makes them much more valuable. We talk about transferable skills, that people have these skills from past experiences that can kind of substitute and take place of the security skills. But I think we're looking at that completely backwards. Those skills from outside are actually far superior than the security, like strictly security skills that we have. We need those skills. They don't compensate for a lack of security skills. Forget most of the security skills. We need more of those skills because they give real important perspective, and they tend to be better communicators, better used to business, better used to problem solving, and less following the security doctrine. It also means those people, funny enough, because we spend so much time moaning about skills gap, they're trying really hard to get into this sector. They're really happy to work. Like, they cherish the opportunity. Meanwhile, we're looking at people who have quite a bit more myopic that we're struggling to find and paying huge premiums for, but are less adept at strategically solving problems. So to me, it makes a lot of sense of hiring this kind of very alternative skill sets rather than the hardened security people with 10 plus years of experience in security and only in security. And you actually pay less for them and you get more strategic output from them. The other thing I think we're really bad at, this is a general IT thing and security particularly, because we're such techies, we tend to be very poor at leadership. And being more business focused and knowing where to prioritize things and understanding solid principles of leadership when it comes to people and driving productivity out of people and just basically making them happy and productive is tremendous. The difference between an unmotivated and a motivated individual is about 500% productivity wise. And just stacking people up in queues and socks, doing mind-numbing work over and over and over because you're never actually addressing the issue behind all these alerts that you're getting all the time. It's just not fit for human beings. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing this incredible turnover and this higher and higher and higher level of compensation, because people just don't want to do it. You have to pay people a tremendous amount of money to constantly 24/7 address issues that should never exist in the first place. If you instead make them work proactively, they feel so much more accomplished. They feel so much more involved in the business. They understand what contribution they're actually making to the larger business. And that helps not only get better results, but it actually makes them happier and really improves retention, which is a massive problem in this industry right now. And all these things have business benefits. You get more done, you spend less money, and they actually enhance security. You're doing better, more proactive, longer lasting changes security-wise than if you're just constantly fighting fires in a kind of detect and response setting. So the last one I have is, well, what about risk? What about the actual bit of being risk? And I've always said, I'll start with the second one. Traction is more important than spend. I will always trade a little bit of budget to get more traction, because the more the business allows me to do, the less money I need to do it. Because a lot of it is just internal friction. Being business focused, having these conversations about driving value to the actual business, brings us to the table, builds those relationships, gets that support. And that enables us to have that much more traction, that much more influence, to actually get the things done the way we want them to be done, so that we're not firefighting all the time. And that visibility and support, that's what allows us to be better aligned. We also have better visibility, which I think is really important. By being more involved in the business, we get involved in different aspects of the business. We're being taken outside the kind of IT stack into all areas of the business. And that's where we see a lot of things that normally, if we were in an IT/security silo, we'd never even see. And some of these are significant risks to the business. But because we don't have that focus, that ability to engage and do other things other than the tech, we miss them completely. I say, instead of being driven by risk, be driven by business and leave the risk in the background. And the analogy I give for this is, if you have, a 13-year-old son or daughter who wants to go to this festival, your answer is going to be no. Whenever they want to do something that's dangerous to them, you say no. You care about them. You generally care about them, but you just say no, no, no. And that's the kind of traditional parenting. What if instead, and the outcome of that is they're not going to like you and they're going to try and go anyway. But if instead you build a relationship with them, you see what they want, you spot their talents, what potential or opportunities they might have, you help them grow in those areas, you fuel those things from them, you build that relationship, you're in constant contact, you grow together. And then when the festival comes along, chances are they're going to ask you to come to the festival with them. They're actually going to want you there because you've been involved in everything else. And the whole time you will be protecting them, but they won't even be aware of it. And you'll have much more sway over them. When you do eventually need to put your foot down and do something, they'll listen to you. And I think that's far more important than being a traditional department of no. And we can FUD and we can try to scare people. We can show people stats on security and incidents and all this and how dangerous and scary it is. But ultimately, just being there at the table and being trusted and being known as a contributor will give us more ability to actually affect and protect. Personally, I think as a security practitioner, I'm moving into leadership. I think we need to step away from just obsessing with risk. I think we need to start growing a bit and getting appreciation from other things. And instead of just looking at vulnerability counts or firewall rules triggered and all these techie things that to businesses and to most normal human beings are irrelevant. Let's see what we can actually contribute to the business. Let's see what we can do for them. And I think that's been, in my personal journey, that's been hugely rewarding. That is a recipe for personal growth and makes things far more interesting, because I'm at a point where I really don't care about the tech anymore. I just genuinely enjoy helping the business, helping my own team, helping our customers, and seeing what else we can do. And every day is a new day because of it. So that's all I've got. So my parting thoughts to you are, try to think about how you can help your business with security in a way beyond risk. And also, where's your personal growth? Be a bit selfish. Think about how do I want to grow? What actually makes me happy? Because I guarantee you it's not sorting through 10,000 alerts a day. I don't know anyone who actually gets off doing that. Shameless plug, if you want more random ideas, check out my book on Amazon. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it's rushed. I hope that was some value. Please get in touch. I'm always happy to connect with people. I'm on LinkedIn. And John, I will leave it to you.